Why does God stay silent when the innocent fall? The question rose into the heavens, and no one answered. The winds carried it over the deserts of Persia, over the marble palaces of Susa, over the golden halls where kings drank from cups of silver and gave orders that decided the lives of nations. In one of those cities, beneath those same skies, a girl walked barefoot through the dust. Her name was Hadassah, though the world would one day know her as Esther. She had no father, no mother, only a cousin, Mordecai, who took her in and raised her like his own daughter, a quiet, gentle soul hidden in the shadow of an empire. But destiny, like the desert wind, never stays still. That year, the empire trembled. King Xerxes had cast away his queen, and across the vast lands of Persia and Media, heralds were sent with a single message. Let the most beautiful women be brought to the palace, and from them the king shall choose a new queen. Some called it a chance for glory. Others, a sentence disguised as gold. Mordecai stood at the door of their home, his hands shaking as soldiers rode past. Hadassah, he whispered, promise me one thing. If you are chosen, remember who you are. She wanted to ask him, who am I? A name without a family. A face among thousands. A whisper in the crowd of the forgotten. But the wind took the question again. No one answered, and so the girl was taken. Through the gates of Susa, past golden pillars and perfumed halls, where music never ceased and servants never slept. There, in the house of women, she was given a new name, Esther. The name meant star, and in the darkness of that palace her light was only beginning to burn. Nights passed, some filled with fear, others with silence. The other women sought jewels, perfumes, mirrors that promised beauty. But Esther sought something else, peace. A voice that did not come from men or kings, but from heaven. And in that silence, the God who seemed absent watched. When her turn came to stand before the king, she wore no crown, no excess gold, only a white gown, and the quiet strength of a soul unbroken. The court fell silent. Xerxes looked at her, and for a heartbeat, time itself forgot to move. Her eyes, someone whispered. They do not beg. They understand. The king rose from his throne. This one, he said, this one will wear the crown. The question that had risen to heaven that day, why does God stay silent, finally met its first echo. Not in thunder, not in power, but in the quiet courage of a single girl who dared to stand before a king. The crown was cold, heavier than she expected, in the mirror of gold. Esther saw not a queen, but a girl wearing the weight of 1,000 souls. The palace whispered around her. Silk curtains moved with the wind, voices drifted from the court, laughter, wine, the rustle of politics. Yet beneath the marble floors, a shadow had begun to move. His name was Haman, the king's most trusted, most venomous advisor. His smile was thin as the blade he wore beneath his robe. His words were honey. But his heart was poison. He bowed to no one but himself, and when Mordecai, the Jew, refused to kneel before him, hatred was born, deep, ancient, unquenchable. If one defies me, Haman whispered, then all will pay the price. The order was sealed. A date was chosen. On that day, every Jew across Persia would die. No one spoke of it aloud, but fear traveled faster than the king's messengers. In the marketplace, whispers replaced laughter. Mothers clutched their children closer. Men prayed in silence. And Esther, the queen who wore gold and jewels, felt the walls closing in. Mordecai came to her in secret, his face hollow with grief. Do you not see, Esther? You were chosen for this moment, not for comfort, not for glory, but for this." Her hands trembled. "If I go to him uncalled." She said, "The law is death. And if you stay silent." Mordecai answered, "We will die all the same. Perhaps you were brought to this palace for such a time as this." Those words echoed through her nights. For 3 days she neither ate nor slept. She fasted. She knelt before the God who once seemed silent. "If I perish," she whispered, "I perish." And the heavens, which had long seemed deaf, finally stirred. The 4th morning she rose. The crown shone on her head, her eyes, steady, calm, unafraid. The doors of the throne room opened. The guards froze, the courtiers gasped. No one approached the king without summons, no one unless sent by death itself. And yet she walked. One step, then another. The king looked up. For a moment even he forgot to breathe. The world hung between mercy and judgment, and in that silence, he raised his hand and stretched out the golden scepter. "What is it you seek, my queen?" Esther bowed low. "My life," she said softly, "and the lives of my people, Ingen." The throne room fell silent. No one dared move. The torches flickered, throwing long, trembling shadows across the marble. The king leaned forward, his crown catching the firelight. "Your life?" he asked. "Who would dare threaten the queen?" Esther raised her eyes. They no longer held fear, only truth. "A man," she said. "An enemy. One who seeks the death of my people." She turned, and her gaze cut through the hall like a blade. Haman, his face turned white. For a heartbeat, the kingdom itself seemed to stop breathing. The king's hand clenched on the arm of his throne. "What?" he roared. The air shook. "Who is this man that would dare lay a hand on my queen?" Esther's voice was steady, every word a spark. "The man who sits at your right hand, my king." The chamber erupted. Guards rushed forward. Haman fell to his knees, his words choking in his throat. "Mercy, my lord." But there was no mercy left in the air that night. The same gallows Haman had built for Mordecai became the gallows of his own making. The decree was broken. The order reversed. The people who were to die lived. That night, the city burned with light, candles in every window, music in every street. The people who had wept now danced. The people who had hidden now sang. And Esther stood by the window, the golden crown shining faintly in the glow of dawn. Mordecai stood behind her, silent, proud. "You saved them," he said. She shook her head. "No," she whispered. "It was never me. It was courage, the kind that comes only when you stop waiting for a sign from heaven and become the sign yourself." The wind outside carried her words across the city, over the rooftops, over the walls, over the gates, until they reached the same sky that once held her question. Why does God stay silent? And now the answer returned, not in thunder, but in light, in the face of a queen who learned that faith is not waiting. Faith is standing. And sometimes one woman's courage can shift the balance of kingdoms. She was once an orphan. She became a queen, and through her, an entire nation lived. Esther, the queen who changed destiny.